Okay, hi guys. My name is Andrew. I've been using Touch Designer for about 11 months now, and I make art out of point clouds. And so today I'm just going to go through my workflow and just share with you guys what I've sort of discovered from learning Touch Designer. And basically, the whole idea is to make art out of mathematical functions. And I just first want to just give out a big shout out to a creator called Pakata12. Um, he, I've followed his tutorials since the beginning, and for probably like 6, 7 months, it's just been what the hell is going on. But eventually it clicked. So yeah, what I do is essentially create point clouds out of scratch, and yeah, and I get cool little jellyfish um, body parts, I guess. And so as you can see from here, right, it's just all basic high school mathematical functions. I'm gonna pull up Desmos. Love Desmos. And essentially what I want to sort of tell you guys is what I use a lot in my workflow is something called a ramp. And ramps are essentially the equation y equals x, where we interpolate between the 0 and 1. And so how does that work? Well, I start off with a constant, right? And I use a ramp. And by creating a ramp, I essentially get a lovely line, right? But with this line, using parametric equations, we can create this into a circle. By multiplying this equation by 2 pi, we can then use the function top and create the parametric, we can put them into cosine and sine functions, right? And essentially, what do we get? Well, we get a spiral, which isn't a circle. We're almost there. But because we left our last channel still from 0 to 1, we can use a reorder top to make our final circle, right? And I don't know, I just think that's really fun. You can make shapes in Touch Designer using a point cloud from the ground up, starting from nothing. Now, afterwards, because I want my jellyfish to essentially look like a jellyfish, we want to create some randomness. And so what do? Well, I just add some noise. And by adding this noise, we get a nice little, I guess, squiggly circle. And last part that we can do is we can finally just interpolate, right? And so in this first example right here, when I'm using a ramp, you'll notice that, well, yes, again, it looks just like a straight line. But when we multiply this with our circle, well, now we just have a bunch of straight lines pointing in the direction of our squiggly circle, which by itself, in my opinion, does not look very jellyfish-like. Oops, sorry. You see, if we look at this, it's kind of flat. So what I was thinking was, okay, well, if I can multiply any top texture with some function, well, what if I use a different function? And so going back to Desmos, if I turn this one off, I sort of realized that, okay, well, we can sort of shape cubic functions into the shape of a jellyfish head. And so with this similar interpolation, by using ramps, what I can do is I can create this function in 3D space and multiply that, and essentially get my final jellyfish head. And what's great about this is we can do this in, because we're doing this in tops, we can also use noise quite easily to, I guess, vary our points. And it makes for very interesting final designs, right? And so what I do here, right, is the same process what I did with the jellyfish head. But instead of using just a single function, I add some noise to it. And when I add noise to it, it creates, I guess, like very visually appealing, flowy randomness that really does look like jellyfish tentacles. Yeah, and lastly, all of that is basically the baseline of my project. But what we can do is we can put some, wait 1 second, sorry. I think it's this one. Okay. And so now after some post-rendering, some post-processing that I'm really, really bad at and I don't know what I'm doing, but eventually you can get something that looks like this. And it's all in 3D, so I can move around and I can zoom in. And if I go into my geometry viewer and zoom in really closely, you'll notice that all of these are points, right? And I think that that is the best part about using this method, because you can create beautiful creatures, such as this one, and also manipulate them afterwards. And so I will show you this at the very end, but what I've done is I've created a Verlet physics simulator based off of Packet of 12's 2D one, and I've made that sort of connect with my jellyfish. But and so hopefully this is working. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I forgot to plug this in. Okay, great. So now that, because they're all points, right, I can manipulate each of them with some sort of system and, I don't know, just play around with them. And really, I think that's the beauty of it. You can create all of these lovely generative bodies using mathematical functions and then play with them with even more mathematical functions. And to me, I don't know, that's the best part about Touch Designer, just being able to interact with the world that you create. But yeah, thank you.